Hey guys, welcome back to the Fool Me Once podcast. It's Marist.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back. It's Andrew.
We are in our final episode of the communication series. Y'all, we have been having so much fun.
Yeah, it's been such a great series. It's been awesome.
Yes, we loved kicking off the Actualize launch with this communication series, mainly because we feel like, who are you without your communication skills?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
How are we possibly going to teach you how to create your own reality? Hint, hint. In next month's, well, this month now.
Yeah.
This
We're in
month's
August.
series starting Monday, August 5th, is the Creating Your Reality series. And truly, how could we teach you how to do that if we are not making sure we at least covered some basics on how you're showing up in the world, how you're handling your communication skills in your personal and professional lives, and most importantly, today's episode around how are you talking to yourself?
Yeah, it's so important and cannot stress enough. Like how you talk to yourself influences everything in your world around you and how you show up and communicate with others. So.
Absolutely. So this episode for self-talk and internal dialogue, we're going to go over, as always, the obstacles, the opportunities, and the reward for kind of honing in your skills for your positive self-talk. So we're going to cover everything from in the obstacles, things like negative thought patterns and how that can affect your life if you don't get those under control, all the way to if you are practicing that positive self-talk, how will that completely transform your life on a daily basis, truly. Like it impacts your life in super small ways and also really large ways, like Andrew was saying. So I'm super pumped about this. Of course, we're going to have the second half of the episode where we go into the techniques for improving self-talk and the tangible tools really that are going to help you if you catch yourself in these negative thought patterns or doing any of the obstacles, and how to encourage you and give you actual exercises and tools that you can use for improving all the opportunities.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. This is going to be a good one.
I know. Okay, so I've already kind of said obstacle number one, but obstacle number one is negative thought patterns. Negative thought patterns are basically those little voices or loops in your head. Voices. Hopefully it's just one voice in your head that's kind of just repeating or playing devil's advocate, or it's like the devil on your shoulder, right? It's like, what is it that you're saying to yourself that's on repeat or on a loop, or it's the first thing that always comes to mind because you're so used to seeing things from a more practical viewpoint versus being someone who's overly optimistic, right? Negative thought patterns are so detrimental because, number one, the key word to me in this moment is the word pattern. Anytime you develop a pattern or a habit doing anything, it's going to be a lot harder to break it the longer that you're doing it. And especially if you're in the midst of a negative thought pattern and that leads to you spiraling because of, you know, you're under a lot of stress, or you're currently, you know, seeing your entire life from a negative vantage point, and then you're talking to yourself in a negative way, like it can take you down a super, super deep, you know, spiral, honestly. I was going to say rabbit hole, but that's...
Yeah, I know, like for me, I used to do this all the time, just being in my head, especially when I used to drink too. This was like very prevalent because I would have thoughts around a particular thing maybe that I wasn't doing or should have been doing, and then getting...
And like beating yourself up.
Yeah, and then beating myself up, or maybe I like wasn't as proficient in something in a professional area that I wish I was. And rather than just working on that skill and hyping myself up, like, hey man, like you're not there, but you will be if you just keep working on it. Almost throwing like a pity party for yourself for not being where you should be at a certain stage.
And if you get super used to doing that, then you're going to start believing those things about yourself, right? So negative thought patterns can really affect like your own perception of yourself, which ultimately then you're projecting that out into the world with your demeanor, with your body language, with all of those nonverbal cues, right? So if you are talking negative to negatively to yourself and you have negative thought patterns, that will show outwardly no matter what it is that you say outwardly. I think it's something that people can feel. And I mean, we could go on and on about negative thought patterns, but for me personally, this kind of leads me into obstacle number two, which is shame. And when I added shame to this list, I'm thinking of it in it's an obstacle to feel shame around positive self-talk. So for me personally, and I know a lot of people will resonate with this, I was taught from a young age not to be vain and the dangers around vanity, right? And growing up in definitely like a religious household and having that upbringing, like I was constantly reminded not to be vain and what the Bible says about vanity and all of that and what can happen if you're too vain, right? So there's the story. I'm not going to get into the stories in the Bible, but I definitely have conditioning around not overly hyping myself up almost. Like if I think that I'm too pretty, or if I say that I'm pretty, or if I overly like celebrate all the things about me that I think are wonderful, then I'm not, giving enough credit to God for those things, right? If I'm just so focused on like, I'm smart and I'm a really good writer, I'm a really good XYZ thing, right? Like if I'm just hyping myself up too much, then I'm so focused on like, this is because of Marist, right? Like there wasn't really a world where there was both. It was kind of like, you are nothing without God, or if you say anything that's like positive about yourself, then like you're going down like the wrong path of like being super vain.
Or stay humble. That's like a big one.
Yeah, like the idea is like, you need to be humble, and like someone who's humble doesn't like point out the things about themselves that are great, right? But there's nuances to this, and this is what I've had to learn as I've gotten older, is because of that really contributed to me not understanding my own self-worth, drastically affected my self-confidence. Like I was not a self-confident person. I had to learn that skill when I was older, and it took a lot for me to actually like see myself as being pretty, or see myself as being smart, or see myself as being all of these things, because I just had so much conditioning around feeling shame around that. And instead, what I had to teach myself is like a delicate balance between those things, like not finding my self-worth and value in my looks. I think ultimately that's the lesson that was trying to be taught, is just that can be super dangerous if you deem all of your worthiness around your looks, right? Like my dad would always be like, well, what happened? Like, you need to be prepared. Like, you could get hit by a bus one day and your whole entire face is going to be distorted. So don't put so much emphasis on like your face and your makeup and all that kind of stuff. And that really stuck with me, that bus example.
Yeah.
One, it's kind of traumatizing to think when I'm little.
It is pretty.
Maybe I'm going to get hit
aggressive.
by a bus, but it is a life lesson of just understanding that things can change in the blink of an eye. You could get in an accident and no longer be able to walk. And like, I do think that there's like, good intentions in that lesson, but I do think that also simultaneously, like it still is something that I'm like working on, and I feel like I'm at the tail end of it, but knowing my own worth and value, right? And understanding like what things about me, it's okay that I'm celebrating them, or it's okay that I see myself as being smart and having value, because I do have value, or I have worked on my skill set for X number of years, and that does translate in the business world for value, right? It's not just this constant thing of like, I'm so humble and I'm so giving and I'm so whatever, that then I was taken advantage of, right? Yeah. So it's really interesting how these things can kind of translate, I don't know, into your adulthood, which kind of takes us into
obstacle number 3, which is confirmation bias. And this is when you're pretty much it kind of relates to negative self-talk, but in the form of like where you're seeking out different things to support however you're feeling. So for example, if you're having a bad day, or your day's off to a bad start, and you're constantly just looking for things or having thoughts that support the fact that you're having a bad day. Like, oh my gosh, my house is dirty. I don't have any, like, an outfit to wear. Like, this is the worst day ever. And it can spiral from there.
Yeah, confirmation bias is huge. And like, you know, to tie back in my example with shame and how I was kind of thinking of confirmation bias is like, if I feel shame around positive self-talk and being able to look myself in the mirror and being like, you got this, you're super smart, you're pretty, you're whatever it is that's going to enhance my self-confidence, like your hair looks great today, like good for you, Maris, go out into the world and like go get them, right? And if I'm thinking that that's bad, right? Or I'm looking in the mirror and I think those things like, oh, I look pretty today, or oh, my hair looks good today, or something like that. And if I associate that immediately with shame, or, oh my gosh, I'm being vain, I'm not being humble because I'm celebrating something about myself, then what am I going to do? I'm going to do confirmation bias around the opposite of that. So now I'm picking myself apart or body shaming or being like, oh, I should have worked out, or, oh, like, I'm immediately looking for like, well, if I was more humble, then I would be more aware of my faults, right? So I'm not just so egotistical, quote unquote, that I'm just looking at all the positive things about me and I'm being more realistic or practical, or I'm basically toning that down. I'm toning down that side by trying to have confirmation bias around all the things about me that make me not pretty or not smart or not whatever. And it's not as literal as that, right? Like, it's not always something that we're aware of, because confirmation bias and all these things that we're talking about, a lot of these things is, like I said, things that maybe were ingrained in us when we were younger, right?
Yeah, from a young age. And this reminds me too of your book, which is all about getting back to the truth of who you are when life tells you to be somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, which in your intro, you're talking all about like all these influential figures in your life at a young age, which is like your parents, mentors, teachers, coaches, these people that kind of shape that internal voice that you have in your head. And now that's what's going on as you get older in your head and confirming all these things. And you're like, oh, this is like, why does this always happen to me? And then you're like looking for things that support.
Yeah, or like how often do you like, oh, I like can hear my coach's voice in my head, or I can hear my mom's voice in my head, or my parents being like, don't do it, it's not going to be smart, like that's not a good decision, right? Mm-hmm. And so, not that those are negative thought patterns, right? Sometimes those warnings are great reminders of how to do something or something else, but the same can be true. Like, not everyone is growing up in a super healthy family environment where they could have been told you're not pretty, you're not smart, you're not whatever. And those are the negative thought patterns that they're pulling, right? Mm-hmm. Or in my instance, it was like trying to like humble myself, like the reverse, right? Like feeling like that was so important that I couldn't have a balance between the two, right? Like, why can I not thank God for all of the gifts and talents that he's given me while also celebrating the hard work that I put into honing in on those skills and, you know, taking my writing talent that is a natural gift and crafting it into something that is going to be a book or something like that, right? Yeah. Or using my bubbly personality or my, you know, smile or whatever it is to have positive influence in the world by taking pictures and sharing them online and pairing those with other positive things, right? It doesn't necessarily mean one goes without the other. And that's what I wish that I had a better understanding of when I was younger. And that is a huge thing that is tied to my book, like you said, like where just going over some of these like conditionings or maybe lack of tools for understanding these things have then contributed to, you know, obstacles such as negative thought patterns, shame, and confirmation bias.
And I think a lot of that mindset too, when I think back to when we were younger, and it could come from religion, or it could just come from like my memories, is like it just felt like a list of things not to do. Like, don't do this, don't be vain, don't be this. But where are we like equipping, especially our children, like to feed their passions and like feed into that thing? Like, yeah, it shouldn't always be about your looks, but if it's like, also let's teach them to be confident about it.
Yeah, like the last thing I'll say on this before we go into opportunities is I can recognize now, even as an adult, like that shame thing is like is really honestly like the only thing that I feel like might still need to be worked through for me. Because I'll notice like I'm so much more comfortable when I'm not wearing makeup and I'm in my gym clothes and I'm sweaty and my hair is a mess, and like I find myself talking to the neighbors after a run or after a workout when I'm like that, and I feel so much more authentically myself, which is great. It's great that I don't feel embarrassed about those things, but it's not great that when I'm all dolled up and wearing my 4-inch heels and in a pretty dress and have my hair and makeup done, that I feel badly about myself like that, right? Like I'm doing something wrong by like getting dolled up. And then it definitely doesn't help when I've been a victim to older women on social media, like literally calling me and telling me that they don't like when I show up online, like all dressed up and I'm sending the wrong message and just different stuff like that, right? Like just salt in the wound of this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, well, now I'm getting, you know, in trouble, and it brings that up in me, right? Like I literally did have somebody call me, a woman in her 50s or something, like
it's so
call me
up.
like this year and tell me that she was offended by me posting pictures where my hair and makeup is done. And it's just so funny the way that these lessons kind of will pop back in your life to trigger those wounds, like this being like my number one wound of like feeling embarrassed when I look pretty and like get dressed up and stuff, like being showing like, well, am I going to give my power away to this? Like, am I, by not having positive self-talk, by not having all the opportunities we're about to say, it's just giving our power away to all these people, where then if I wasn't as strong as I am now in my positive self-talk, that could have completely derailed and like really kicked me and made my low self-confidence even worse if I didn't have any self-worth or self-confidence.
Yeah, and I do credit all the work you've done, especially around positive self-talk, for how gracefully you handled that situation with that woman. Because I think in the past you probably it would have triggered all these things in you and you probably would have ripped them apart. Instead, your energy was more like, okay, well, thanks, I'm sorry you feel that way, bye, and then blocked.
Yeah.
But,
and I don't even think I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I said, thank you for letting me know how you feel and for feeling like you could call me and share that with me.
Yeah.
And all I had to do from that point is thank her for that, because it's none of my business what she thinks about me. And that's how I felt. So I'm like, okay, well, like, thanks for calling and telling me that. And you think you're doing it with good intentions and whatever. Like, it's not my business to explain to her why that's so effed up, you know?
Yeah.
So
don't ever do that, by the way.
It's
just hype people up, especially on social media.
So anyway, you know, then I can choose at that point to use my emotional intelligence to understand maybe why that person felt the need to do that. And it has nothing to do with me, obviously. So then I can just block her and remove her from being able to, you know, see anything else that I'm doing, because clearly we're not aligned in, you know, what is okay. So, and how to treat people.
Yeah.
But that is honestly like a really great example to both of our points, because I think when you're dealing with negative self-talk, like other people's opinions, like coming in and playing a role in the way that you're talking to yourself, if you're not strong enough in understanding how crucial it is to develop positive self-talk skills and techniques, then your whole entire life, and especially if you're going out to start a business or do something new, if your entire self-worth and validation comes outside of yourself, from other people, then you're completely handing the power of your entire life and all of your success into the hands of the opinions of others. And that is a surefire way to fail.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up to have a bad time for a long time.
Because no one knows you well enough, is paying enough attention to you, is inside your mind, your heart, your soul, is probably even taken enough time to understand everything you've been through, who you are, and all this stuff to be even giving their opinion. And my first thought now, if anyone wants to give an opinion about something, is like, well, how much do you actually know about me? Have you actually listened to every video? Have you actually this, that, the other, right? And they're going to say no, because no one cares as much about you as you care about yourself. So why are we even bothering to let anyone else's opinions affect our own self-talk? You know yourself better than you know anyone else. At least you should. That can be your new goal. And when we get into this Creating Your Reality series, like this next piece, this opportunities and these tools that we're going to give you is absolutely crucial and foundational to whether or not you're ever going to be able to create your own reality. It starts with you and how you talk to yourself.
That's so true. Everything comes after that, right? Through positive self-talk comes your self-confidence and self-respect, and it's going to set yourself up for so much success in your other relationships and all things in life. But yeah, it comes from you and from within first and foremost.
I promise you, when you believe in yourself, whether people get it, most people aren't going to get it. No one, again, is paying that much attention to you that they're not even going in. Why should they care what you're doing? It's not any of their business, right? Like, the people who need what it is that you're offering or the value that you're going to bring are going to naturally be drawn to it because of whatever reason. It's not your job to convince people that they need what it is that you're selling, right? It's about your job of making other people think that it's their idea that you're giving and providing what it is that they need. But we'll get into that in the Creating Your Reality series. Yeah, I think we're ready to get into opportunities because we're already talking about them. Okay, so jumping into the opportunities now. Opportunity number 1 is the most important, which is improved mental health.
Yeah, you're just going to be in such a better mental headspace if you're practicing positive self-talk. If you're talking to yourself in a very positive manner, everything else is just going to be better for you mentally.
Yeah, because whatever you say about yourself to yourself is ultimately what not only you're going to believe about yourself, but again, it's what other people are going to believe about you. So if other people are already not seeing your worth, not seeing your value, or deliberately trying to undermine your self-worth and self-value because their intention is to keep you small instead of celebrating you to encourage you to grow because they're threatened by your success, they're threatened by your actions are now actions that they're not willing to take or don't have the courage to take. So people will like deliberately and subconsciously try and undermine you, which if you are not strong in your own positive self-talk and self-worth, that will succeed. And so the mental health effects that can have are detrimental, truly detrimental to your overall health, because if you have poor mental health, then that's going to translate into your physical health and everything else.
Yeah, it
right?
manifests in so many negative things potentially in your life.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, if you're not taking care of your mental health.
Yeah. So by speaking kindly to yourself and positively to yourself and reaffirming the very small wins as much as the big wins, like every single day on a daily basis, like taking time to say, I'll give some examples that I do. Like, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, like, I will look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, I look pretty today. Or even if I feel not good about myself, I'll be like, oh, like, I feel like my hair looks a certain kind of way today and I'm like struggling with it. But then I'll be like, but you know what? Like, it's okay because I've been working so hard recently that I just haven't had time to like style it, you know? And I'll reshape, I'll do kind of that reframing of the negative thought pattern. The moment that I find myself criticizing myself, to say something positive to help me connect the dots. It's like, well, my hair looks like this because I didn't do it, but I don't need to beat myself up about not taking the time to do my hair. I need to remind myself, like, I spent that time doing whatever else, and that's okay. Let's say I didn't do anything productive and I laid in bed all day and I was just simply being lazy. I have to reframe that thought and say, you know what? Like, I didn't feel motivated to do my hair, do my makeup today, But I'm not, again, going to look in the mirror and beat myself up about that. I'm going to tell myself it's okay. Like, you have been working really hard. You probably needed a rest day. There's a reason why you don't feel motivated today. And I'm super proud of you, and like, good for you for, you know, even in that moment, good for you for like attempting to like reframe your thoughts so that you're not beating yourself up.
Yeah,
you know?
reframing is such a great tool to get through that. I'll use that all the time. If my day's not going so well or whatever, having a tough time, just like stop for a second, like think of 3 positives that came out of today, or like 3 things that are going well, and it can completely pull you out of that negative headspace.
Yeah, or just saying like, I'm so proud of myself. Like, we'll say it to each other all the time too, but like, we will say it. Well, I'll be like, I'm so proud of me for like getting this podcast edited in under 7 hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, it's just celebrating the little wins, and improved mental health is so crucial for the rest of your health.
Yeah, it is. It can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
So opportunity number 2 is going to be greater impact. And that's just for you out in the world. You're going to be able to accomplish more, help more people, just from coming from that positive self-talk space.
Yeah, because if you're hyping yourself up, then you're creating motivation within yourself. You're not leaning on outside sources for your motivation. So you're going to be so much more likely to take action, to move yourself forward through the steps. Like, if you are always, again, same thing with the negative stuff. If you're always relying on the likes, the comments, someone else being like, if we were relying on people right now to
I was just thinking us in this
hype
podcast.
us up about this podcast and this new venture, when everyone is holding us, like, it feels like everybody right now is trying to hold us to old versions of ourselves when we drank, when we were just known for marketing, when I was just a social media guru, or whatever box people had me in. If I was a slave to people's opinions in the box that they wanted me to be in order to fulfill their desires and their needs and what they want from me and who they want me to be because it serves them, then I would never be able to wake up every day excited and hyping myself up to do another podcast if I was basing this off of the traction it was getting, the likes, the anything like that, right? But I know myself well enough to know, Maris, like, you know who you are, you know what you're here to do, and you know what it is that you have to offer the world. So I show up every day excited with my clarity, my vision, my positive self-talk, and that's why I can come on here and smile and continue to provide value, because I'm not worried about the people who are like cheering me up along the way. I don't need that right now, right? Like, I know that I'm in this for the long haul, for the bigger reason, for the bigger purpose, and what drives me is me staying true to myself and the value that I want to give to the world. Me seeking affirmations, if I was doing this for affirmations or for validation, especially in the beginning, I would never be able to do anything. I wouldn't be where I am now. I would have never been able to grow my marketing company that I grew over the last 9 years to be across the country. I would never, like, I know better than that. Like, positive self-talk will take you places that the most successful people, seeing who you are and what you have to offer, will never be able to take you. You cannot put your validation and your success in somebody else's hands. And when you are someone who wants to make a greater impact in the world, you have to tell yourself every single day that you are someone who is going to make an impact in the world. What's the quote that everyone knows? The people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do, right?
Yeah.
It's not the people who are like, well, who's going to tell me today that, like, I'm the person who's going to change the world? Like, I'm waiting. I haven't gotten any Facebook messages yet. No one's commenting on my picture.
I'm not sure if anyone has ever changed the world because someone told them.
Right? Like who are you even... Who's going to be the magical person who's going to deem you worthy of these things? Absolutely nobody. You have got to tell yourself. You've got to know yourself well enough to know what impact you're trying to make. You've got to equip yourself. You've got to put in the work. You've got to understand exactly that person who wants to make that impact, what's required of you to do that. And you got to become that person. You have to know who that person is. You have to become that person, and you have to get closer to you, the true you, to your soul self, to your higher self, whatever you want to call it, you've got to get closer to that so that you have the clarity and the positive self-talk that will get you through all of the obstacles and all of the barriers in your way and all of the things that people are going to try and throw at you to like keep you down and deter you and take you down a different path. Like, yeah. I'm so passionate about this, which is really why the book, which, I mean, the book is not out yet, by the way. Release date will be announced in 2025. But yeah, I mean, okay, opportunity number 2.
That was hype. I got carried away.
That was opportunity number 2.
Yeah, greater impact is opportunity number 2. Opportunity number 3 is
stronger relationships. Yes. I know y'all are surprised.
You knew it.
But what are these communication skills without not going so deep in on how it will personally affect you? But then, of course, we have to tie it back at the end, back to like how it's going to improve your relationships with the people in your lives. Because we're not trying to have you just all self-empowered and isolated from everyone. We want you also building community and relationship with people.
Yeah, and your personality will be attracting all those people from your positive self-talk. You're going out there having a greater impact. You want to be surrounded by positive people. No one wants to be surrounded by negative Nancys. So you're just going to attract those people and you're going to be building those strong bonds. But it all starts from within.
Yeah. I mean, to that's kind of like you teach people how to treat you, right? Mm-hmm. So like how you treat yourself is how other people are going to treat you. So if you feel like a lot of people are, mishandling you, undervaluing you, all of that kind of stuff, then you have to look within and be like, well, what do I think that I'm worth? What do I think that I deserve? And what am I accepting? What are my non-negotiables? What am I tolerating? And if you haven't set those boundaries and gone through all the other episodes that we put, for communication and how communication and all these areas ties to your relationship building, then you wouldn't, really be able to master this one nuanced piece of stronger relationships. But as it relates to the relationships in your life, the better you are at practicing on a daily basis, seeing the positive in yourself, speaking the positive about yourself, then yes, what Andrew said is true. Other people will be able to see that and feel that from you. But most importantly, you're building a habit now where you're going to see the positive and speak the positive about other people.
Yeah, that's so true.
How you talk about yourself and to yourself is oftentimes going to be mirrored in how you talk about other people and how you see other people. So if you're just so used to living in these negative thought patterns where you're just constantly beating up yourself and pointing out all the things that are wrong with you and the mistakes that you're making, well, guess what? You're going to go and constantly point out the mistakes other people are making because that's going to make yourself feel better, right? Misery loves company. So it's so important for being a person that is self-actualized and creating greater things on this planet, right? And helping to raise the vibration of everyone around you, that you're starting with yourself, because that will truly be a reflection in how you treat other people.
Yeah, that's so great.
Andrew's speechless. This one's big for me. This episode, I'm not meaning to fully take it over, but I've really been on a solo train in my adult life of having to combat every I don't know, sword that people have thrown at me. I've not had an easy path. I don't know if anyone out there assumes that I've just had everything handed to me in my life.
Your fire and passion is coming from this deep place.
Yeah. So. I feel like it's been me against the world. That's how it's truly felt. More power to you if you have a ton of people around you loving you and supporting you. But I firmly believe that it was for me to teach lessons like this. So
yeah, for sure. The only thing I wanted to add was if you do get caught in these negative feedback loops or self-talk when you have a business idea or you want to go accomplish some big goal, but always find a way to talk yourself out of it, is think about it you could go down a path and think about all the negative things of why this thing isn't going to happen for you. Or you could sit here and say all the positives and why it's going to be a massive success. Both options are a lie. So you're not guaranteed to be unsuccessful and you're not guaranteed to be successful. So why not believe the positive one and go after that way? Worst case, you don't achieve it the way you want to, so you learn from it, pivot, and go in another direction.
Yes.
So I think that's like...
I mean, that is such a great point, because I know we didn't get into it, and we are going to get into it in the Creating Your Reality series, but your thoughts absolutely create your reality. Like, point blank.
Yeah.
Like, what you think about is what you're going to attract. You're going to create more of whatever that thing is. So to Andrew's point, why are we so comfortable just leaning into the negative thought patterns when it could be just as true? Or, you know, we don't know, to your point. We don't know if this is going to be successful or not be successful. So why are we going down the path of that instead of just believing in the positive? I honestly think that it like all boils down to like some sort of like self-preservation of your ego, of not wanting to get your feelings hurt, rather than why are we not saying, well, what's the worst thing that could happen if this business fails or this venture fails or this idea ends up not working out? Why are we not just doing like what Andrew said, like you can learn from it, right?
Yeah. You're just protecting yourself from some failure that you think is going to be embarrassing. But that's how you ever accomplish anything in life, is to fail forward, learn from it, and continue growing.
Absolutely. And don't worry, you guys, we will teach you how to fail forward. We're experts in that department. Yeah. And we are ready to give you all the things, all the mindset stuff, all the tools, all the whatever. But I hope that you could feel and hear the passion in this episode for how important it is to have positive self-talk and how detrimental it can be if you have negative self-talk. We are now going to jump into the extended. If you are not yet signed up to one of our memberships, then you can sign up on our website or by visiting the YouTube channel, the Actualized Lifestyle YouTube channel, or actualizedlifestyle.com. And that is where you can sign up to a membership. Either tier of the Empower membership or the Embody membership will get you access to all of our extended podcast episodes. Again, we theme everything, so every month is a particular theme. And then we create resources and tangible step-by-step guidelines, either in the videos or if it warrants a more in-depth tangible resource, then we also have that available to you in that membership program. So it's its own little universe that's going to continue to grow and build as we connect with more people, add more people to this community, and get other experts into the mix with their courses, their resources, and their advice on the podcast. So
yeah, we just wanted to continue to offer value to you guys. So like, even leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, like it, share it, subscribe so you get notified when new ones are coming out. And yeah, let us know what you think about this or what other things you would like to see us talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to jump over there. If you're joining us, we'll see you in just a second. For everyone else, thanks so much for listening to the podcast or joining us on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you in our next video.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.